to be doing the cross stitch tag. This was developed by Stitchin Mae. I think she found some questions on an online forum and then decided to do it on YouTube, and she's tagged various people to do it. I think I was tagged a while ago, and it's just taken me a while to get around to doing it. So my mother and my grandmother have been always crafty. Unfortunately, my grandma is no longer with us, but my mother is, and she's still crafty. My mother taught me how to stitch and do tapestry, and I'm pleased to say that I've even got my very first tapestry here. I think tapestry is probably the stepping stone to cross stitch, and this is the zebra that I first started with when I was 5. I think I must have found the background so much easier to stitch than the foreground, because my zebra is rather lumpy and the stitches don't all go either one direction, but the background's actually really neat. Obviously it's a fielding stitch, and the next step to learning cross stitch was how to do it counted. So somewhere between the age of 5 and 12 I learned how to cross stitch. My mother used to enjoy doing counter cross stitch, and I used to sit by her legs and watch her do it, hoping that I could get a go at it. And then I must have convinced her when I was about 12 that she could spend the money and buy me a cross stitch kit, a counter cross stitch kit. So this is the first one I did. Look, I can't remember the name of the designer, but it's some baskets, a sun hat and some beautiful flowers. I so proudly finished this, and then my aunt paid for it to be framed. In those days framing was very expensive and we didn't have very much money, so I was delighted to be able to have it framed and for it to sit in my bedroom. This probably took me about 3 months to stitch. I did it over a summer holiday from school. Shepherd's Bush has definitely been my favourite designer. I'm not sure it is anymore, but in the last 20 years it's certainly been the designs that I've completed the most of. Probably my style has changed a little bit since, and maybe I'm a bit more contemporary. I do love beautiful colours, and that's probably what attracts me to a design. I haven't done any mirabilia or chatelaines, and I am feeling the urge that that might be where I might head next. The other favourite design I have is the Prairie Schooler. I do love the whimsy of the designs, and I do love the themes. I always enjoyed reading stories and nursery rhymes, and the Prairie Schooler seems to capture those. DMC thread is the most common thread that I use. It's only $1 a skein in Tasmania, which I think is probably 2.5 times the cost it is in the US or the UK, but still it's relatively cheap. In Australia, to get a skein of Weeks Dye Works thread, for instance, it can be up to $5 or $7, so it costs a lot more to use those threads. I do use them in the Shepherd's Bush stockings, and I am about to make my number 5 stocking, and I do use those threads in that one, but it's expensive and they're hard to get. You often have to order them in. It's worth it for very special projects, like a stocking that's going to be personalised, as opposed to something that I'm going to put on the wall just for me. I use linen and even weave fabric as my fabrics of choice. Saying that though, I have a few kits with Ada, particularly the Bothy Threads kits. If the background is something that will stand out or show, I will definitely use an even weave or a linen. They both stitch up beautifully. I don't use a needle threader, and I rarely lick my floss. I just have a knack of being able to fold the thread over the top of the needle and then thread it through the eye of the needle without any need for floss licking. My eyesight's still fabulous. I don't need glasses, so I'm very fortunate to not need anything. I have a mixture of how I actually stitch patterns. I will sometimes put them in a hoop. I will sometimes use a Q-snap, which is a plastic hoop, but it's in a square shape. I have got some wooden frames, but I'll only use frames on very large patterns that I don't have to transport. I don't have any stand for frames to go onto. I don't own any of those. And very frequently I stitch with just the fabric folded up in my hands and don't use anything. I've finished about 20 projects. I've done several very large projects, and I've done 4.5 shepherd's bush Christmas stockings. I've done a sampler for my daughter's bedroom. I've done a couple of samplers that I've given away, and there's probably a myriad of smaller projects that I've forgotten. Plus all the projects I'm working on, that amounts to a lot. I have 2 completed works on my wall, and at Christmas time I've obviously got all the other stockings I've done that come out as well, so that will be 7 by the end of the year, which is exciting. I stitch for myself. I don't stitch to give away. Saying that, I have once stitched a baby sampler when I was mid-teen for a cousin who had a baby, and she requested a birth sampler stitched by me, so I stitched one for her, and that was beautiful Australian thing with gum leaves and wattle and eucalypt flowers. It was really pretty, and I really enjoyed stitching it for her. I don't stitch smalls. I don't know why, but I seem to love the big projects, which is quite crazy. I want to put them on my walls when I'm finished with them, so I don't give them away as gifts. Oh, that might change in the future. The more stitching I do in the future, the less room I'll have on my walls, so maybe I'll become more giving over time. This is my favourite project, the Marjolaine Bastin 4-season sampler, and I finished it in 2012. And I still love it. Oh, I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the colours and the animals and the flowers. It reminds me of my trip to England in 2006. It's like my memory sampler. It's my favourite. It was a Lanark kit. And this is the one I have the least fun stitching on. I wish I didn't have to say that. It's really hard. Help. It's all the blending of the threads, and the pattern's hard to read, and the threads aren't very well organised. And they weren't sorted at the start, and they weren't labelled well. I don't want to put it down. It is really pretty, but I don't like doing it. Toss that over there. The thing I love most about cross stitch is it helps me relax. I also think the little X's are like little kisses on a fabric. Is there anything I hate about cross stitch? No, I don't really like blending because I can't do the loop method to start when I've got 2 threads of different colours. So that's a bit of a pain. Sometimes back stitch can be a bit of a nuisance, but I love cross stitch. I just love it. Oh, I've got some sweet friends, and we started a cross stitch group locally about 2 years ago, maybe not quite 2 years ago, and we started this recently. My friends hadn't picked up cross stitch for years. They both knew how to do it, so theoretically I didn't teach them how to cross stitch, but I got them back into it, and I had to help them choose their pattern and their threads and their needles, and it was lots of fun, and we're meeting up every fortnight and stitching on this, and it's great. I'm so pleased to be doing that. Oh, my mum found this really cute sewing basket, like a garage style. Oops, lost one. And I just keep all my full skeins that I have that I've collected for various projects. I've got the Carriage House Samplers Christmas houses pattern away. So a lot of these threads are for that. And then other bundles of skeins I might have got for other projects that I haven't started, or my hay that I stopped doing. So I just put them in here, and if I need to look for a thread, rather than go to the shop first, I look in here first and hopefully find it. Now for my projects, I've started becoming a bit more organised, and I've got a little floss winder, so I can do a tutorial about that soon. But I've bought a little organiser, and I'm actually putting them on bobbins. I've just found it's so much easier if they're actually on bobbins and with numbers that have printed on them. These are the plastic bobbins, which are quite good because they don't bend. The paper ones tend to bend. And I can wind my spare threads. After I've got a strand off a cut thread, I can wind the back on at the end and use them first next. And I'm not losing my cut strands. So I'm very pleased with that. That's working out quite well. So I actually feel a lot more organised recently. It's nice having a floss winder, and I definitely recommend that. Answers all my questions on my cross stitch tag. Many thanks to Stitchin Mae who posted it originally. It's been so much fun doing it. It's been one of these things I've put off, and I've been thinking about it and just getting the time to do it. It's been hard, but here I am. I hope you had fun and you really enjoyed listening to the answers. See you soon. Bye.